My name is Max. I'm the founder and CEO of Finimize. So, without further ado, today we have Jason Butler, who is actually, interestingly, the first investor in Finimize, for better or for worse, he'll tell you. And he'll be basically talking about financial well-being. I've learned a lot from him about this topic, and he's a very, very engaging speaker. He actually does that now a lot of your time, I would say, I guess, full time. He's voted one of the top 100 financial advisors in the UK. He set up his own private wealth management company and sold it. He wrote the Financial Times Guide to Wealth Management. He's recently wrote another book. He's written, I think, 5 other books before then. And he's a columnist for the Financial Times. He loves talking about money with millennials, so exactly up the alley of what Finimize is trying to do. And he's an all-around awesome guy. So welcome on stage, Jason Butler.
Thank you. Right, I just want you to imagine that you've won the lottery. You've won £3 million. That's about what, $4.5 million, American friends? Are you imagining that? You know you've won it because you've got the numbers. You know you do the same numbers every week, and on television you've heard them announced. So you've won this money. You're going to ring Camelot. What feelings are you experiencing? This is the bit when you participate, all right? Just for the shy ones. They told me that you're a rocking crowd, so I'm expecting you to really get going. What? Just shout out a feeling, an emotion.
Happy.
Happiness?
Ecstasy.
Ecstasy? Yeah, we know where you go.
Excitement.
Yeah? Sorry?
Excitement.
Excitement?
Fear.
Fear. Now we're talking. Any others?
Intimidated.
Intimidated. Love it. This is a good crowd. Anything else?
Relief.
Relief? We can talk about that later. I do one-on-one, right? Okay? Special, only for insiders, right? Okay, so why is it that we've got such a range of feelings about winning £3 million? The reason is because we're not wired to make smart decisions about money. We're driven completely by emotion. There is no logic, so the issue is that we're driven by emotions, and that clouds all of our decisions, and it clouds all of our thinking. Now, you know I said to you you've won £3 million. Now, I've got some bad news. There's been a mistake. You can't find the ticket, and you can't prove that you bought it. How are you going to feel now?
Suicidal.
Suicidal? Yeah, what was the other one? Suicidal, someone said. Right? Anything else? Come on. Panic?
Angry.
Angry?
Rage.
Rage! Ah, this is good. Right, here's the thing. You didn't actually, no one gave you the money. You haven't had it taken off of you. What you've had is you've had the idea of having it robbed from you. Right? So here's the thing. Spare a thought for Martin and Kateott. They were sitting at home watching the television, and it said the winning numbers for a ticket that is 6 hours before the 6 months are up before you can't claim the prize. It was a ticket bought in a ticket bought in Watford. They said what the numbers were. She said, "That's our ticket." I know, because I do that every Wednesday, and it's the same numbers every week. They rang Camelot. The prize was £3.1 million in 2001. Camelot said, OK. They investigated it, along with 12 other spurious claims of people who said that they'd won it. They said, but we can't find the ticket. They even proved through CCTV and the digital exactly where she said she bought the ticket. They proved it. That she'd actually gone into that shop and bought the ticket. But they couldn't pay out the money. Do you know why? Because the rules state that if you have lost a ticket, you have to report it lost within 30 days of buying it. No one had ever seen this rule. How do you think these people felt?
Cheated.
Bloody right. She left him. As you would. She said, this one-bedroom flat in Watford's not for me. He couldn't buy the E-Type that he told all his mates he was going to buy. And he stayed as his purchasing manager, earning £26,000 a year. He spent 9 years of his life, 8 years of his life, trying to fight them on court cases, trying to find everyone. Cherry Blair even said, I'll help you out. I don't know if that's good or bad. That's Tony Blair's wife. She said, I'll try and take it to court for you. Anyway, the long and short of it, this guy had an excruciating 7-8 years of trying to get back his money. Now, he's still doing that job as a purchasing manager, commuting from Watford into London. And he said, actually, he's a better man for not winning the money, with clenched teeth. And he's actually now become an author. The question really is money really the issue? Is having lots of money the issue? Anyone know what this game is? Right, okay. I would have thought we'd have more women say that. I thought we'd have more women gamers. Who's this guy here? Anyone know? Yeah, Marcus Pearson. He is the actual inventor of that game. He sold his business, Minecraft, in 2014 for £2.4 billion. 2.4 billion, not million, because everyone gets that bit wrong. Right? So what does he do 2 weeks after? He goes for a holiday to Ibiza, like you do. Hanging out in Ibiza with a bunch of friends and partying with famous people, able to do whatever I want, and I've never felt more isolated. This guy went into a serious depression. Why did he go into a serious depression? And it gets to this central part of what we're really going to talk about here. He lost his mojo. He lost his purpose. Because although the money was nice, it wasn't enough. And if you're chasing just money and you make that your master, you are destined to be unhappy. So, he thankfully, and his girlfriend did leave him, by the way. I mean, what kind of girl leaves a guy worth 2.4 billion? I mean, he doesn't look that bad, does he? So I want to just touch on the difference between money worries and money troubles. Now, let's just be clear what a money trouble is. Money trouble is you can't pay your rent. You can't buy food. You can't afford to buy your boyfriend or girlfriend a present. And the reason that's a problem is I know because my wife years ago when I first got married said, oh, don't buy me anything for my birthday. Which I know now is not the right thing to do, to not buy her a present, right? What she meant was don't spend a lot. Just a little tip for the young guys who aren't really familiar with that kind of thing. Money worries. Now, money worries is the essence of what really chips away at our soul. Money worries are emotional. They're emotional. They're feelings. They're things that we're carrying around with us like a big rucksack with bricks in. It's that voice in your back of your mind. It's the things that make you do what you shouldn't be doing. And it's the things that hold you back from making smart decisions. So we all have money worries. But the thing is, they don't have to determine you. They are just thoughts. Thoughts are not facts. So let's talk about what we mean by being financially well. This is the academic description from Gallup of what financial well-being means. A state of being wherein a person can fully meet current and ongoing financial obligations, can feel secure in their financial future, and is able to make choices that allow enjoyment of life. Now, I have distilled that down for you so you can remember it. It's satisfied with your life and that you're happy. Simple as that. That's, for me, is financially well, that you are living a life which is in tune with your values. Now, here's a little takeaway. Working out what is important to you in life and the role that money plays in it is a really, really key thing that you need to get a handle on. Because if you don't, when you win the lottery, as obviously you all are, because there's a 1 in 45 million chance of winning the lottery, just a little aside here, you've got more chance of being struck by lightning and killed, or killed in a car accident on the way to buying the lottery ticket than winning. Although all I would say is there is more chance of you winning the lottery than being crushed to death by a drinks vending machine. So that's an interesting fact, just to keep you all on the side. So what do we mean by Goldilocks wealth? And again, if you look at my back catalogue in the FT, as I call it, of my articles, you'll find called Have You Got Goldilocks Wealth? And really simply it's, will I run out of money before I run out of life? Will I have far too much money when I die, which means I either worked too hard, took more risks than I need to, or didn't live a life? Or do I do everything I want in my life, I have just enough money, and that when I take my last breath, I've got nothing left, and the cheque to the undertaker bounces? So this is the big, now look, big deep breath everyone. Right, let it all out. Right, cool. This, if you don't take anything from today's talk, this is the big thing, right? This is it, the 4 key rules. Have we got any dry ice? And some big drum roll? Yeah, okay, right. So, 4 rules to building wealth. Spend less than you earn. Revolutionary. So why don't more people do it? Save the difference. I know it's going to get a bit more complicated. Invest in a diversified portfolio of great companies. Be very, very patient. Now that's easy, right? That's simple, but it's not easy. It's not complicated. It's simple. And, you know, I dare say get back to basics, because that didn't work for the Tory party 20 odd years ago. But it's so basic. And that's why Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, you know, some of the richest, most successful business investors in the world, they've said, why hasn't anyone copied you? And they said, because our system's too simple. Smart people want complicated. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to get a balance between emotional well-being and our economic stability. The issue is that obviously having more money does make you happier. I can promise you that, definitely, because I've been skint before and I've had money. But it only makes you happy to a certain point. So once you have enough, more and more money doesn't necessarily make you happier. Having choice and freedom, yes, but just keep chasing more and more money isn't necessarily the answer. So, the interesting point is that actually happier people, and this has been shown in a recent Russian survey, and I'm not sure if it wasn't oligarchs and so on, but it was the general population, but actually happier people end up making more money. It's a bit like, you know, when you're trying to achieve something. Let's make it simple. You know when you really like someone and they're a bit diffident towards you, the more you try, the less keen they are. So I taught my daughters, treat them mean, keep them keen. It's working. Here's an interesting thing, and this is really, really important point. As younger people, you've got to think like a victor, not a victim. And what this means is that you need to take responsibility. And I'm not hectoring you. I'm 48 years old, okay? I'd love to be 28. In my mind, I am. It's just when I look in the mirror, I can see I'm not. But the point here is that taking responsibility, no one is going to sort this out for you. It's been shown, Morningstar did a very detailed analysis, and they actually proved on every level of the income scale, once you got above subsistence and basic level, that people who sort of generally associated themselves with, I can deal with this and I can take responsibility, they had more money and savings than people who just said, no, it's society, it's my mum and dad, they're getting shit upbringing and all this sort of stuff. So understanding that you can control a lot of things, and all of it's about your work and your spending. Most people think of earning a living, right? Can you put your hands up here if you're employed by someone? Okay, it's most people, right. So you get paid an income, you get paid a salary each month, right? So anyway, the thing here is that most people think of money coming into their bank account and flowing out like a river. And that's a very disempowering way of thinking psychologically. Where does money really come from? Where does your paycheck come from? This is a participation bar. Anyone want to say where the salary comes from?
From your work.
Yeah.
You work for it.
Thank you for the wrong answer. Technically, yes, but it doesn't. No, thank you. It comes from your asset, which is you, and your asset, which you're leasing to your employer, comes from your resources, your energy, your skill, your time, your contacts, your wherewithal, your vigour. Now, when you think of it like that, and all successful people think of, when they make money, inflows, they're thinking of assets. So I have lots of assets, different assets. Some are my personal resources, and some are the ones that I built up. But if you think of your resources becoming your human capital asset that then becomes money, it's much more empowering. So that's what you're selling. Now, the reason this is important is because actually everyone in this room is worth probably at least £3 million. I know what you're thinking. You came for the free booze and the food because times are a bit tough. You are all worth £3 million, and the reason you're worth more, at least £3 million, is because that is the cumulative value of what you're going to earn over your working life. Some of you will earn more, some a bit less. The question is, how much of what's flowing in from your resources will you consume and spend as you go, and how much will you defer? That's all it is. So here's the thing. When people say, should I invest in Bitcoin or whatever it is, I say, well, let's just have a reality check. Now, my oldest daughter is Daisy, and she hates this because she gets brought out on every talk. She was born in 1998, and she has a 50% chance of living to 100. If you're 40, you've got a 50% chance of living to 95. If you're 60, you've got a 50% chance of living to 90. This is the facts, okay? So unless you get a double-headed coin, and So here's the point. This is the bit when I really make you depressed, and then we change it around. Don't worry, this is the low. 25% of your money, your earnings, you have to save every single year in order to have enough income when you stop working to give you 50% of what you were earning. Now, here's an interesting thing. You earn most of your pay rises happen in the first 15 to 18 years of your working career. Let's just have a little reality check. What should you invest your money in? Well, let's say you earn $40,000 a year, and that escalates at 3% a year, and you do that for 40 odd years, you're going to have £3 million. The present day value of that is about 800,000, depending on what. Let's not get carried away about the discount rates and everything. Let's say you get a pay rise of £1,000 a year, and that again continues to go up at 3% a year. You're going to end up with just under 3.1 million. So not massive more, is it? Discounted value to today is about 830. But if you just stayed at 40,000, but it increased each year at 4%, you'll end up with 3.8 million of total lifetime earnings and a net present value of 920,000. So doing something to increase your ongoing salary escalation rate at a higher level means you're going to end up with much more lifetime value. So the very single best thing you can invest, certainly in the first 10 years of your career, and possibly 15 or even 20, is to invest in yourself, to improve your earnings capability. That is why people take degrees. That's why people join the law and medicine and what have you. But there are lots of other careers. When you start earning a little bit extra money, a few more drinks, another little night out. As my wife says, a beauty treatment now and again doesn't hurt anyone. Guys, those shoes, because you're worth it. The point is that we start telling ourselves stories that we're worth it. And what happens is we escalate our spending in line with our escalating earnings. Now, there's two problems with that. One, it crowds out saving, the ability to save for the future. And by future, it could be a year's time, 2 years' time. It doesn't have to be when you're old and grey and falling apart. What it does, the lifestyle creep, means that you have to aim to provide an income when you can't work, when you're older, much higher level. So in other words, if you can constrain your lifestyle spending, I lived in the same house for 20 years. I know, what a loser. It's worked for Warren Buffett, he's been in his 58. But the point is, we've managed to keep our lifestyle constrained. It took me 2 years to decide to buy a smart television. And my daughter said, Dad, it's getting embarrassing when people come around now. Can we change the TV? The point I'm making is if you can constrain your lifestyle spending, one, you'll have more and more of your increasing earnings available to do good things with. And secondly, the salary or income that you're going to need to provide when you're older and can't work or don't want to work is going to be a lot less. You haven't let it drift up. Here's a little thing, if you want to be happier, make a budget. Right, who's got a budget here? Okay. All right, keep your hands up if you follow it. Oh, okay, like it. People, it's fact, this is fact, okay? Happier people have a budget and try to stick to it. It sounds boring. Warren Buffett said, don't spend and then save what's left. Save first, then spend what's left. Always pay yourself first. But what I also want you to do is to try and think about making decisions on a daily and a weekly basis in context of a wider you. So when you are eating and drinking and spending and earning, think about the impact this might have. Just answer to the older you. Now, the older you might be in a year's time, 5 years' time, 10 years' time, 30 years' time. The further out it goes, the harder it gets. But the studies show that people who can think at least 10 years ahead, so they're still living in the moment, they're still enjoying the day because eventually you'll be dead, but they have a longer horizon. So those people end up having more savings if you can just increase your time horizon. So here's a framework. What we really want you to do is get in control of your finances on a daily basis. That's having security now. People who have feelings of control over their finances are generally happier. People who don't feel more depressed. We want security in the future, which is your ability to cope with a financial shock, which is why it's so important for you to use your surplus money to build up a cash reserve. It sounds boring, but having a cash reserve means you don't have to go into debt. You don't have your credit card. You don't get an overdraft. And you can cope with whatever life throws at you. Freedom now means that you can make choices today to enjoy things, to perhaps go to a slightly nicer place to eat or a nicer holiday. And freedom in the future is that you're on track, not exactly, and you only have to guess this, you don't have to get too hung up of it, that you're doing something for the future. And that's financial well-being. If you take responsibility, remember, you can control your judgments and your actions. That's no one else's job. Create a budget and a plan, just a simple budget, and try and stick to it. And a plan can just be whatever guess you want it to be. It doesn't have to be set in stone. Work with someone. Now, I'm not saying you have to work with a financial advisor. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is find someone who you can be accountable to. And what we've seen is, if you look at Weight Watchers, and if you look at Alcoholics Anonymous, the reason why people actually abstain or lose weight is because they have a buddy, someone they can check in with, someone who's their accountability partner, someone they can just share this stuff with. Now, obviously, choose the person carefully. You don't want to talk to your boss about your money troubles. You can download my cheat sheet from my website, which is on there, and that's free. That is the last chapter of my latest book, Money Moments: Simple Steps to Financial Wellbeing. But I just want to quickly share one last story before we finish. In 1996, Fred came to see me. He said, "I'm 65, I'm retiring. Can you help me just plan my finances?" I said, "Yeah." He wasn't sophisticated. He wasn't really wealthy, but he'd worked hard all his life. He'd saved a bit. He'd bought a house. He'd been married for forever. And he just wanted to do the right things. So we organised everything from his pensions to his will, everything. We went through it with a fine-tooth comb. Now, off you go, Fred. Go and enjoy life. Fred went off into the distance. 2 years later, he was diagnosed with a terminal illness. He had a 10% chance of surviving, 90% chance of dying. I went to see him in hospital. I said, "Fred, there's nothing I can do about this, and I'm really, really sorry for your situation. But you know you're all sorted. You know your wife's going to be okay, and you don't need to worry about that. What you need to do is get better." Now, Fred is the kind of guy who does follow advice. He only became the 10% that got better. And he didn't just get better, he carried on living better. And this is Fred today, age 86, who still to this day dives off a 5-metre diving board. 5 metres? Right? And that individual, we don't know if sorting his finances helped him get over his illness. But what we bloody well do know is it didn't hurt. Right? Now, the interesting thing about Fred is he's my father-in-law. And even when my wife's having a moan about me, he said, "You can't say anything about Jason, because without his advice, we wouldn't be where we are now." And sometimes I do regret that. And that's him sitting in my conservatory drinking my wine. Now, here's a quick little thing. If you don't follow what I've said, or not interested, don't bother increasing your human capital. Don't bother controlling your spending and saving some for the future. Don't worry about any of that. Don't worry about taking responsibility. Just be prepared that when you're old and grey, you're going to be eating this cat food. Thank you.